Is Alexa Rupert. I'm a junior at Bloomsburg with a major in psychology and a minor in anthropology. I decided to do my presentation on the international drug war. What is the international drug war? So the international drug war, the United States, it's a United States global campaign to stop the trafficking of drugs. It's been in the works for over 40 years. Their priorities include stopping trafficking, production, and consumption of drugs all over the world. But their main priority is so that there is less coming into the United States. Drug trafficking and consumption impacts and affects every country in the world, creates a huge global health issue that they're still trying to get under control. So, what are some strategies to stop drug trafficking? Many anti-drug laws have been put into place all over the world. Some countries take on a more health-appointed approach when it comes to hoping to reduce and stop the consumption of drugs. So these countries actually focus on what can happen to your health and well-being after consuming drugs. Other countries take on a more criminal justice appointed approach to reduce the consumption of drugs. These countries focus on what will happen to you legally and criminally after consuming drugs. So, are the efforts of the United States working? The short answer is actually no. Despite this campaign being in effect for over 40 years, the trafficking of drugs and consumption of drugs has actually not decreased, it has increased. Over $1 trillion has been spent in 40 years relating to drugs. The image I put on the slide shows the economic breakdown of the $1 trillion, such as what it's being used on marketing or how many people, like the amount it's being used to lock people up in jail or prevention or arrests. What is the balloon effect? So this is a term used to describe when one country's efforts impact other countries' outcomes. To be more specific, when one country's efforts pay off and they actually do see a reduction in trafficking, consumption, and production of drugs, the production is actually pushed to a different country, usually increasing it or keeping it the same. This is really important when it comes to trying to reduce the global production of drugs because it really isn't helping anything when one country reduces theirs, but it gets pushed off to another. The image I included on this slide, it shows kind of just like a main problem drugs for each country relating to this, such as if one country reduces their production of drugs, it's most likely that the country next door has the same problem drug and it is just going to keep being made and even pushed to theirs production, increasing it or keeping it the same, seeing no effect on the total global international drug war. Global reform effort. So some countries have a health-oriented approach and some countries have criminal justice approach. Which one helps more? The criminal justice-oriented approach, which is used in the United States, has actually been shown to promote ineffective eradication of drugs in countries where drugs are produced. It locks these countries into a model that promotes illicit markets run by organized crimes in that specific country. But the health-oriented approach, used in Portugal, for example, shows creditable methods when it comes to the eradication of drugs. These countries that have allowed the legalization of marijuana, for example, have followed Portugal's drug laws, which has been shown to be really effective. Alternate approaches. So, turning a blind eye to distribution, production, and consumption of drugs, not legalizing or decriminalizing drug trade, and the focus on police when it comes to violent crime has actually been suggested by researchers as a method to try to reduce illegal activity with drugs. So another one is a complicit approach, which was used in Mexico in the 1970s and 1980s. The government actually turned away when drugs were going up north This at the time though was done by a single organization. Now there's many different organizations that fight for routes up to the north, which creates very violent and bloody turf wars. So the last one is actually the legalization of drugs. The problem with the international war on drugs is not the illicit substances, but the prohibition of drugs. So many government officials have started advocating for legalization of some drugs, marijuana as a start. So, in my conclusion, I just wanted to point out some things I found really important or details about the international drug war. So, while the efforts of the United States in international drug war have not seen very much success, other methods have been shown to be more successful, such as the health oriented approach. The drug problem in the international drug war is not stopping anytime soon. Researchers are not seeing a reduction in production or consumption of drugs, which is the suggestion of other approaches in order to help reduce this. So, billions, even trillions of dollars have been spent on a problem that isn't going away. So, should countries try something else, such as should the United States opt for a more health oriented approach rather than the criminal justice approach? Even to try just to see if it does make a difference or help, like following other countries, such as the Portugal's method, when it comes to reducing drugs and production and distribution. So my very last slide, I included my references, which is the two articles I used and the two pictures I used. Thanks for listening.